Welcome to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Austin, and it is once again my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am excited. Yes, again, I'm going to keep saying I'm very excited every time I do this thing because I have another amazing speaker, professional that's going to be here on the platform, and she is a business affiliate sponsor. So we thank her for all the support, and we're going to bring her on very, very soon. Everybody is excited about this year's podcast. This year we have even more people on this platform. So this is the platform to be on in 2018. The purpose of the BMWOC podcast is to not only share our industry information, but we are encouraging you, the working professional, college students, enthusiasts that is out there looking for the next jump in your career or your entrepreneurship. So please take a moment to visit all of the pages that we have on the website. Check out all the bios, listen to all the podcasts so that you can get an idea of what's happening out there in the changes of the industry, because there is so much information out there, and we want to give you the opportunity to reach out to all of these wonderful professionals that we have here on this platform. Before we get started, we would like to thank our corporate sponsors, which are Kat Serrano, LLC, Cheryl Wood Empowers, Concern and Learning, Evangelism Radio, Genesis Preferred Solutions, J Coach International, Nails Tax Help, My Financial Home, Power, STCI, and the Student Teacher, along with our business affiliate sponsors and all of our participants that is helping to make this event a success. So today we have one of our business affiliate sponsors here on the podcast today, and her name is Sonja Keeves, and she is the CEO and founder of Walk in Love 2 Creations, where they specialize in clothing apparel for men, women, and children. She is also a first-time publisher and author in an anthology book, and she is also an outspoken motivational speaker on top of all of that. She has spoken for organizations such as Strayer University and the Jack Wealth Management Institute, and she's also involved in a whole bunch of other activities that you're going to be reading in her bio as you listen to this podcast. And we're also going to be talking about her background in accounting and all of the other things that she has going on. So, Sonja, welcome.
Thank you so much. It is truly my honor and pleasure to be here with you. I'm so excited to be on your platform, and thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Okay, so let's talk about it, just the basic stuff, because I always start out this way, is to just talk about, who you are, what school you go to, a little bit about your background and how you got into going to the clothing line industry.
Oh, absolutely. I am a mortgage loan processor, so I actually help facilitate the relationships between home buyers and their loan officers to purchase a brand new home or to refinance their home. And I had gone to school and got both my undergraduate degree in accounting and my executive MBA from the Jack Welch Management Institute. And it was through my experience through the Jack Welch Management Institute where they are breeding the next leaders for the next generation, where I got the idea to become my own boss and to kind of step out on faith and to charter that to see kind of what that would be like for me. And the Walk in Love clothing line apparel came about right in 2017, kind of when the new president had been sworn into the office, and folks were on social media just spreading just negative energy, and I wanted to simply change the message. And so I began to kind of post inspirational sayings to kind of just inspire folks on social media. And I would always end every inspirational post with my hashtag Walk in Love. And that kind of birthed the idea of creating a clothing line out of Ephesians 5:2 to encourage men, women, and children to just perform one simple act of kindness and passing it forward, so we could eradicate the racism and bigotry and to help build our communities from the inside out. So the idea behind the clothing apparel line would allow people to, wear the apparel and to truly perform that act of service and really operate and walking in love every single day. And when it's almost like when people wear the apparel, they they truly almost feel differently because they're empowered to want to just create an active service in their community. And when I'm walking out in my community, I have people who stop me all the time that ask me, hey, what is hashtag walk in love? And so that allows me the opportunity to share the message and the mission behind the clothing apparel. And people are just, moved by it because they said, people don't do that every day. And so it has been has birthed for me this idea of walking in love. And it is just a message that I continue to inspire nations with.
Wow. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you that is some phenomenal stuff. So I like to kind of break down because you touched on a number of different things, going all the way back when you was doing accounting and even
Yes,
starting before that in your conversation about doing mortgage loans. Now,
yes,
one of the most beautiful things about this platform is that a lot of people are doing so many things. And so I kind of want to step back in time as when you decided that going to school and doing your MBA and all that kind of stuff, that you decided to do mortgage loans and then transition into the walk in love, because a lot of people try to find a way to transition their skills in the way
yes.
that you did, but they don't know how. So just share with us a little bit about your experience on how you were able to find that in your timeline and how you made that transition.
Absolutely. Well, the transition for me, ironically, because my background was in accounting, I was an auditor by trade. And in 2008, when the market crashed, my job was eliminated, and so I had a really hard time trying to find a job. And this was just shortly after, I obtained my accounting degree in 2002. So I was going actually back to school as an adult learner, which was a challenge for me. But at that particular time, recruiters were saying, you've got great job experience, but you really need that piece of paper to solidify the skill sets that you have. So I decided to go back to school, and I worked full time and I went to school at night. But in 2008, when I got laid off, again, I could not find a job in the industry because at the salary cap I was at, it was, not conducive to how the economy had changed. So I actually came in as a temporary employee working for a financial institution in mortgages. Now, I had never done mortgages before, but what happened for me was the skill sets that I was able to use as an accountant and an auditor mirrored very well being a loan processor, because you've got to be a person who has an eye for detail and looking at documents, bank statements, credit reports, and being able to help the buyer understand the documents they need so that they can be presented before an underwriter to have their loan underwritten and approved. So it really worked well from moving from accounting straight into mortgages. And what it also would allowed, I'm the type of individual who loves to help people. So knowing that every time we were able to close a home loan, I would always get email messages, from the loan officers just thanking me for helping this first time home buyer who thought they could never own a home in their life, to finally be able to realize that dream. So it almost became a ministry for me to be able to help home buyers. So then as I, moved up in my career, one of my stories I share, because I'm also a speaker, is that I share the transition that I went. I started in 2008, and then I worked for the financial institution until 2015 when I got laid off again. And it was almost crazy that it was happening. And once again, I found myself wanting more out of my life, wanting to figure out, what do I do next? So I enrolled in a graduate program through Strayer University, and I got my undergraduate also from Strayer. And the reason why I love Strayer so much, because Strayer's platform allows that working adult to go back to school while they're working full time. And I got to actually sit and hear from the legendary Jack Welch, who was the former CEO of General Electric. And so he allowed us to just really hone in on becoming a leader and really asking those questions, how can I change business for the better? And so it just became, in that program, I truly got transformed because I had spent so much time, trying to fit in where I got in, and this program opened my eyes that what you are creative for so much more, and it gave me the confidence to speak up and to speak out of the things that I wanted to create in the world because I was helping to live everyone else's dream by being an employee at a financial institution, but I didn't have the confidence before realizing that I had everything I need to be equipped to
Right.
actually start my own business. And when
Mhm.
and the very first course that I took was leadership. And in that class, we began to take assessments to determine the type of leader that you were. And it's kind of funny when, you've been a person that's always kept their head down and always worked hard. You never stop to open your eyes and realize you are just as valuable as the next person just because you may be an individual contributor and maybe not in a leadership role in your job. We are all leaders in our own respects, but it takes that kind of clarity to see that happening
Mhm.
for you. And so I was able to do that in the MBA program.
Mhm.
And, people were being inspired by what I was sharing in the classroom setting. And a lot of them thought I was already running a company just because how I spoke, how I articulated my mission, my vision of the things that I wanted to aspire to become. And so through that whole transition, I graduated in 2016, top of my class in the executive MBA program, and now I have people all over the world who want me to come and speak to their audiences
Mhm.
about the importance of gaining an MBA and what it can do for you. Because initially I was thinking it was just going to help me catapult in my career, but it did much more for me. It allowed me to step outside of that box and see that the
Mhm.
gifts and the talents that I had mirrored well for me to step in and create my own dreams and then help empower my community so now people can come in and
Mhm.
do the same thing. And that's what I do now is I go around speaking to especially women about how you can build a secondary income through means of entrepreneurship using the very skill sets you do every day on your full-time job.
Wow, I'm gonna tell you, Sonja. Oh my goodness, that is so wonderful. Just listening, you hit on so many points, and I'm just going to break them down just
Okay.
very briefly. First of all, the career transition of being unemployed, because this is my wheelhouse. When you are suddenly unemployed and you are sitting in your room and you're like, "What do I do now?"
Yes.
Like you said, unless you actually have that clarity as to what you are supposed to be doing to lead
Yes.
yourself, and not just being a leader or having leadership, but just leading yourself to the next step, right?
Yes.
And knowing how you can go out there and find that information. And sometimes it just takes an unexpected unemployment to get you to see
Yes.
that, you know?
Yes.
And that happened to me a couple of times. And I actually had that same clarity happen to me when at one point I was at this place and I finally got into IT and I was learning stuff and people were teaching me things, and I felt like I was in the place I needed to be. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden, I actually forgot about the fact it was a contract position. But when I realized that that contract was pretty much gone and
Yes.
that dream was gone, my clarity was like 100%. It was like, okay, you need to have this thing and you need to be in this position. And
Yes.
so one of the things I want to highlight in what you said was that you actually had set yourself up in a position where you had multiple ways of doing stuff. You had, the loan, you had the mortgage knowledge, you had the accounting, and then you were seeking your MBA.
Yes.
And the second part of what I was going to highlight is that there are so many people out there getting masters of business administration,
Yes.
but they're not matching it to their skill set,
Yes.
because you can get an MBA and that's cool. And there's hundreds of thousands of people with MBAs out there, but are you matching it with the background and the skills that you have in your area to be more effective for your career?
Yes.
And you have managed to do that, and then saw opportunities where you can actually take even more information in and elevate it that much more. And so people who are listening, I want you guys to kind of like replay everything that Sonja just said, because that is the epitome of career transition is being prepared and putting yourself and setting yourself up to be in the next jump and to be ready to go, no hesitation, and you
Yes.
kind of did that. So I'm just really, really happy to hear that you were able to make those effortlessly. I know some of it wasn't easy, but
Right.
you made it easier for yourself just by doing the work. And a lot of times we don't do the work.
Yes, it is really interesting kind of how that happens. Um, in January 2017, I was on social media and, trying to change the negativity that I had been seeing where people were disowning each other simply because of their political affiliation. And so I saw an opportunity to use social media for good to inspire people. And so every day or every other day, as the Spirit kind of unctioned me, I would share a moment of inspiration and have the hashtag walk in love. And then one day I was kind of going through my own challenges professionally, and hadn't been on social media for a while. And then I decided to come back, and I remember it was on a Monday, and I decided to post something inspirational, and immediately someone reached out and said to me, "Thank you so much, because every day I look forward to your posts." And I was thinking at that time, wow, I had no idea people were paying attention. I just was using this space to almost inspire myself at the time because I was going through challenges, but I had no idea at the time that other people were being blessed by my message. And then I was a part of a spiritual group who was, and we decided to go through a 40-day fast for unusual blessings. And at that point in my life, I was still kind of almost seeking, what can I do? I feel like there's more that I can do. I feel like it's more than just becoming a loan processor. There's something more that I need to be doing. And I went through a 40-day fast, and I shared the story with people because I kid you not, every day going through the fast, the result would be that God would bless me with an unusual blessing, and I needed an unusual blessing to happen in my life. But I knew that in order to get that unusual blessing, I had to do something different. And so this fast was perfect for me. And literally the 40th day of the fast, I had gotten a vision of taking my message and putting it on a T-shirt. And at the time, I kind of laughed about it because I was like, how is a message with my hashtag on a T-shirt, going to have any effect or any change? And I shared it with my husband, and it was funny because he said to me, "Well, I kind of thought you were already kind of starting your entrepreneur journey with your hashtag." I said, "Well, I was just simply just putting messages out there. I didn't really think beyond it would turn into a business." And so, and like literally, I started spitting out the idea. I said, "The idea I have is I want to create this hashtag, put the biblical verse, Ephesians 5:2, and I want to wear it, and I want to just have another means of you putting the hashtag walk in love." So we actually created a clothing line, and it was really funny because I needed to find a T-shirt vendor, and unbeknownst to me at the time, within my own network, I had folks who did this for a living, and so I reached out to a friend of mine, and all I had was the idea of hashtag walk in love. I said, "I want to create a T-shirt. Can you make this happen for me?" He created a logo for me. And immediately when I saw it, and the first time we created it, it was on a purple T-shirt because when I think of purple, I think of royalty. We are royal priesthood, a holy nation. And so we created the hashtag, and it was amazing. We created my logo, and it took off. And I started to just, model the T-shirts, take a picture, snap it on Facebook, and I created my online store. So I actually have an online store through Etsy, and it was just very easy to create it. And so when I began to just kind of market that this is what I had people reaching out to me wanting to place the order. And I remember the day that I opened my store, it was a week later, I got my first big order. And I was like, oh my God. So it started with a short sleeve tee. They're unisex tees. And so then I started to come up with colors. And so I had 4 basic colors. I had a purple, black, red, and what's the fourth color? Purple. Oh, black, white, purple, and red. Those were the four colors I started out with. And from there, we created long sleeve tees, and we go from sizes small to 4X. So we were making sure that we covered everyone. And so my children began to wear it. My husband began to wear it. Then I would wear it to, work. And that was the beauty of it. I was able to, because typically companies are very cautious about, wearing apparel that may offend other people. But when I shared my story, my company allowed me to market by wearing my T-shirt. And so it was just funny how just kind of everything just started to just fall into place. And so I knew instinctively from that 40-day fast that this was something that was needed. And again, as I began to walk out into the community, I would have pastors ask me about it. I'd have women ask me, "Oh, can you do a couple of shirts for us for our women's retreats?" And so it just became something that just exploded. And I realized people are hungry for hope. People are hungry for community. People are hungry for acts of service. And so that clothing line gave me the conduit and the way to just create a line that everybody can appreciate. It doesn't offend on any level.
Right.
Everybody can relate to walking in love. And so it's really just been honestly unbelievable for me. And and from that, after the clothing line, so many things happened. I was able to write a book and tell my story. And so it's just
Yeah,
morphed. And
I was
yeah,
gonna say, I'm just saying, I can hear the
yeah,
excitement in your voice because it
yeah,
is wonderful when you
yeah,
have an idea, and a lot of times we have like tons of ideas and we think
yeah,
it's crazy, but
yeah,
sometimes those crazy ideas are the best ideas that
yeah,
people see, and you just happen to create something that was very universal that everybody can relate to and really catch on to. And so I
yes,
applaud you in that, because there are people listening to this podcast who, and even on social media that I see all the time, they always creating these nice t-shirts with these
right,
interesting sayings and things like that. But just listening to someone who is taking it to another level can also encourage them to say, hey, my t-shirt may not have sold a lot this time, but I
right,
know that if I keep at it and then I
yeah,
start targeting the right people, that my t-shirt is going to be doing something phenomenal. And I want people to get inspired about using their crazy ideas and put on a t-shirt.
yes, yes,
I know that I did a t-shirt for Empower Thyself. It wasn't the greatest t-shirt, but like you, I kind of think back and say, you know what, I could have really done more with that.
right,
I could have really like spent more time and really put that message out, because when you are walking around with that shirt on, there's a sense of pride, because people look at their
yes,
clothes every day and they'll say, you know, I think I'm going to wear this today because I feel like this kind of way today. And
yes,
so, if you have a t-shirt, don't be like me to sit back and say, oh, I'm going to do this t-shirt one time and move forward. Like, I need to go back and revisit my t-shirt,
yes,
because it's called Empower Thyself, and I really should be doing something with that shirt. So I'm really guilty of that. So thank you for bringing me back, for bringing
yes,
me back to
yes.
do the T-shirt and everything. So let's talk about this first time published author in an anthology.
Woo!
So
Yes.
let's talk about that and what you're doing to get going in there.
Yes, I was so blessed and so privileged to be a part of an anthology. And it was one of your corporate sponsors, Miss Cheryl Wood. And she created this anthology, and it's entitled Women Inspiring Nations. And I'd spoken to Cheryl about it, and she was looking for 20 women to kind of share their truth of how they inspire nations every single day, and talk about God timing. Because the funny thing is, she had been advertising about this anthology, and I'm used to, because I follow Cheryl a lot, and I'm used to her doing amazing projects all the time. But at the time I was like, that's nice. I didn't give it a second thought. But one morning, I'd risen early, and it was about 6 a.m. And the post came across Facebook that it was 4 slots left. And so I immediately reached out to her, and come to find out, she had been kind of following my work which I was amazed about because, again, I'm thinking I'm just little old me, just was walking love tea. And she said that she'd been following me and she wanted me to be a part of this book project. And what it did for me, I used to write as a little girl all the time, create these crazy stories. But when she talked about her mission and vision for this book, about sharing your truth, about how you inspire nations every day, I knew I had a story to tell. So the book was actually launched January 7th of this year. And my story is entitled How My Gifts Manifested My Calling. And I talk about my journey of the trials of just life and going through layoffs and when you're a mom and you're a wife, you know trying to find where you fit in this world. And through that journey I talk about my life story of getting laid off and being a part of the fast and creating this wonderful line and now becoming a published author. And I actually say that line in the book because when women read my chapter, I want women to be inspired to know that you are enough. You are strong enough. You are worthy. You have to believe it. And when you believe it, it all starts with what you say out of your mouth is what manifests in your life. And I tell people all the time that if you speak life into anything that you are trying to build, you can even speak life into that dead thing you thought was over, and you can walk out stronger and better than you've ever been. But you've got to believe that, because when you speak it out of your mouth, your mind begins to change. It's that shift that happens. And that's what happened for me. Like if you came to me 10 years ago and said I would become a published author and I would speak around the United States and I would create a clothing line, I would have laughed and told you I don't even see how that's going to happen, because there was a time growing up, entrepreneurship were only available for the rich. You had to have gobs of money to create a business, but now social media and technology makes it easy that each of us has that $1 million idea. But like we said earlier, you got to do the work. So the book just launched my career. And now, because of the book, because of the clothing line, I now, I get invitations for people to speak at conferences where, they want to hear my story. And I'm happy to share it, because I want that woman to know, that mother to know that you have a gift, you have a talent. You've always had those skills inside of you, but you've never taken the time to really be still. And that's what happens. We get that clarity of thought when we're still, and we just focus on who we are. What do you want to give to the world? How can you serve? And when you ask those critical questions, you realize, like you said, my T-shirt, empower thyself. People need to know they can be empowered. So I just continue to everywhere I go, I get to tell that story. And so being a
Wow.
first-time published author has been amazing. And the minute we had our book launch, like I had my books, and I remember getting it mailed to me on a Monday, and by that Friday, I had sold out all of my books. And the book is amazing. The stories are raw and inspiring and vulnerable. And that was, something new for me, to be vulnerable for the first time and really just share my truth. And because of that, I have people that say all the time, oh, I didn't know you went through that. I didn't know you went through a layoff. How did you make it? How did you do it? Where on earth did you get the idea to become an entrepreneur? And then how do you have the time? They said, do you still work full time? I said, I still work full time, and I still work my business. And they're like, how do you do it? I said, because it's what I love to do. And when it's
Right.
something that you love to do,
Hmm.
time doesn't matter, because it's
Hmm.
your passion. It's what you were created to do. So it's
Hmm.
effortless for me. And,
Right.
so
Wow,
yeah.
you said a lot, and I'm gonna add one more thing to everything that you said, because I totally agree. The the caveat is that you're going to run into obstacles. You're going to run into failures. You're going to run into people who are going to say no and not really support what you do. You're going to
Yes.
get disappointed, but you can't allow that to stop what you're doing, because a lot of us, me, you, and so many other people who I know, work full time to pay the bills. And if you
Yes.
just kind of keep the mentality that if you're trying to move into the entrepreneur space, you have to understand that you do have to take care of your expenses. And yes, you
Yes.
have to work your full-time job, but
Yes.
don't let that be the ball and chain.
Right.
Let that fuel you to start preparing for your entrepreneurship journey. It may take you a while to do
Yes.
what you're trying to do, because right now, I would say in the last 5 years, people are creating new type of industries, new type of hybrids of
Right.
work. And it's not something that you could just put out there overnight. So a lot of
No.
times we're doing our side grinds. Like, I do my podcast and I still work
Right.
full time as system engineer, but it doesn't take away that thought that I am an entrepreneur. I'm still an
Yes.
entrepreneur, even though I'm working for someone else. But I will get to the point where, I will have staff. But that is the challenge of why we do, you, me, and so many others, because there's a lot of people in the minority community that's doing the same.
Yes.
And we are no longer tied to that office or tied to that. We pretty
Right.
much could do stuff anywhere, but we still
Yes.
have to get out from under working for someone else.
Right.
Okay. And
Right.
so we can only do that by giving back, like you're doing, giving back and helping other women. But I think our men also need the help as well,
Yes.
because we need to come together as a holistic community and say, okay, I have this service and you have that
Right.
service, and let's lift each other up so we can have the office and the staff and the
Yes.
finances and build that economy. But it takes us to get out of the mind frame of saying, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to take that creative idea and help someone.
Right.
And
Right.
it all begins with that. And so when I'm hearing all this stuff, I'm also, I can see myself, I can see my struggles and what I've been through, and hopefully people who are listening to this podcast, that they can reflect on what they're doing and
Yes.
really take something from what you said. Is, one, look at your opportunities, take advantage of your opportunities, and work your opportunities. And those are the three things that I got out of everything that you said so far. So what events are you in right now, that's coming up in the next several months, that you want people to know about, that they can come and connect with you and things of that nature? What are you doing out there these days?
Yes. Well, it's so funny that you talked about, your podcast show, because I am actually launching my first podcast show, and it's entitled Inspiring Nations with Sonia Keys. And we are actually going to be launching in March of this year, next month, in fact. And so I wanted to use the podcast to give women the platform to share their stories of how they inspire nations every single day. And so I'm really excited about creating that platform. And then in March, I will be on another podcast called the Bounce Back, a telesummit, Bounce Back telesummit, actually, where I'll actually, one of the speakers, sharing my story. And that will be the week of March 13th of 2017. And in August 11th, 2018, I will actually be in Augusta, Georgia, as one of the guest speakers for the Women Empowerment Conference in Augusta, Georgia. So we actually have the registration link out there on social media where people can go ahead and register for the actual conference. And then in December, I'll be a guest speaker at the 2018 Pop-Up Conference hosted by Charlotte Mitchell. So the sky's the limit. So I'm extremely busy, but extremely grateful for everything that is happening for me, to me, and I'm glad I'm being used as a vessel so I can help other women come along, because I believe in that collaboration and helping other women reach their goals. So if I can do my part through a podcast show, I'm more than happy to do it.
Oh yeah, you definitely did. You definitely did your part. And I'm gonna tell you, if people didn't get what you said, they are missing out, and they need to rewind this podcast and listen to it again. Because and all of them really, because we try so hard to get the information and the opportunities out there, and we have to do a better job at acting on those opportunities. So I'm going to encourage everybody who's listening to this podcast to look down at the bottom of her page. Her contact information is at the bottom. Reach out to her, collaborate with her, start doing more events with her and other people on this podcast with me to build that knowledge base of information that helps entrepreneurs, that helps individuals, college students, and even our kids, because
Yes,
we are the ones that set the foundation and they're the ones that's going to act on that foundation moving forward. So definitely want to encourage everybody to do that. And so again, Sonja, you are phenomenal supporting the business and supporting the movement, and becoming a business affiliate is just an example of what collaboration and support of small business is all about. So I want to thank you for doing that, and wish you the very best. So give everybody your contact information so that they can reach out to you in case they're not looking at the webpage at the moment.
absolutely. You can find me at www.sonja, Sonja, Keys, Kee, B is in Victor E.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and I have very easy connection points. I'm Sonja Keys on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and on Twitter, it's actually my last name first, Keys Sonja at twitter.com. So I am all over. You can connect with me anytime, and I would love to help anyone who's looking for a space to really share their story about how they walk in love every day and inspire nations.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you again for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you, and let's definitely do some really good stuff in the future.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.